Again, that PIO is leaving to go there now. The public information officer, the media representative for the Montgomery County Police Department is heading there now, and their condition right now is unknown. This area right now is not secure. They are making sure that they want people to know that if you can avoid this area, please do, because whoever shot this officer is still out there right now on the streets and should be considered armed and dangerous. As of right now, Larry, we don't have a suspect description.
And I think really that has been the concern for many people that are in the area, that they don't know exactly who to look out for, whether it's one person or multiple people, and that's been a cause of concern. Bruce Leshan joining us right now. And Bruce, we've learned from the public information officer for Montgomery County Fire and Rescue that this injury for this officer appears to be serious and potentially life-threatening, which goes back to your point when I asked you to describe the officers as you see them where you are, and you describe them as melancholy, looking concerned. This kind of matches up in terms of the severity of the injury and the emotion of the officers that are out there on the scene now.
Yeah, I think officers are alarmed anytime any of their colleagues are hurt, but these people are very, very serious. And I'm now right in the heart of downtown Silver Spring. And if you've been here, if you're familiar at all with this location, I can set the scene a little bit for you. Here's the IMAX movie theaters right here. Here is the heart of the kind of outdoor mall, the downtown Silver Spring. And in terms of where this parking garage is that we're talking about, Larry, it's right here. So it's right here next to it, right above the Chick-fil-A and so forth. And the area is roped off and secured by police. You can see the numbers of officers that are on this scene. And just by the fact that you have so many police officers here, so many commanders and so forth, it's clear that this is a very, very serious situation. The officer in the hospital, as we understand it, very, very seriously hurt. And we have seen a lot of alarmed, concerned folks. My colleague Matt Gregory talked to some folks at the Fraternal Order of Police, and they said there that the only thing that they can do right now is offer prayers for the family. A lot of people standing around here watching, trying to figure out what's going on. A whole lot of folks work in this area. Nobody that we've found so far saw what happened, heard what happened, but imagine, can I talk to you for a second? Or,
sure.
Or how do you feel hearing that this officer has been very, very seriously wounded right here by where you are?
Wow, man, it's just so much of this going on lately. It's sad. I mean, I don't know what's going on right now in the world, but it's a real sad state of affairs that, I mean, the police are being persecuted. People of my race and nationality are getting persecuted a lot, as well as people of color. So, I just hope that maybe things of this nature can bring people a little bit closer together.
How we find some peace together is one of those challenges. And
absolutely.
I mean, we've been talking about what happened here. The officer responded for a call here up in the parking garage, as we understand it, at the top of the parking garage. Disorderly persons called for some backup, and when the backup arrived, they found him shot. And that's the thing. These police officers operate sometimes by themselves. You go into a situation that perhaps you aren't aware of the full dangers of it, and things can go wrong very, very fast. And that's what happened here. It's kind of bizarre that it did happen here, because you can see how many folks here. This is a heavily populated area. It's a wonderful place to visit. Hundreds and hundreds of people come down here all the time. This is, 8 in the morning, something like that, Larry? Mm-hmm. And this kind of shooting would happen, and it's just not when you would think that something like this would happen. They've had minor issues at the malls over the years, but absolutely nothing like this that I could remember ever. We do know, and we were reminded by the Fraternal Order of Police, that the last police officer to die, a Montgomery County police officer to die, died just a month or so ago. I can't remember the exact date, but he had actually been shot back in 2003 and then died years later of his injuries. And obviously we're praying for this officer, hoping he's okay, but as we understand it, a very, very serious situation. There was a tactical team that responded here as police continue to search. They just pulled out, and so the kind of active search here seems to be wrapping up. Live in Silver Spring, Bruce Leshan, WUSA 9.
All right, Bruce Leshan giving us a lot of perspective there out in the heart of downtown Silver Spring. Bruce, thank you so much. Again, as we just heard from officials there in Montgomery County with the fire department there, they're telling us that that officer's condition is serious and potentially life-threatening. And I think that certainly adds to the response that we've seen here over the past few hours. And it certainly speaks to the emotion that we've seen from officers that are serving the area and have initiated a number of road closures, that one of their own is right now fighting for his or her life in the hospital. We believe that that hospital is in fact MedStar. We are not exactly sure, but that is our belief based on the location of the situation, and then also the fact that that is what we heard on our police scanners, but we are working to confirm. Our John Henry right now is in the thick of things as well, saying that right now Ellsworth and Fenton in downtown Silver Spring, police in tactical gear leaving the garage where that officer was shot. They only wear tactical gear, folks, when the situations are serious and potentially life-threatening. The road closures will be in place for some time, we are told. As police continue their investigation, we have an active manhunt in downtown Silver Spring with a number of road closures close to that garage that's going to be at Ellsworth Drive and Fenton Street, and even some of the surrounding areas nearby. We know that we've also seen some sort of situation taking place on the inner loop of the Beltway. And if you know this area, you know that the Beltway exit is not far from this section of downtown Silver Spring, just a couple of ways that you can get there. But our reporters on the ground and even those in the air from our photojournalists in Sky 9 are showing us exactly what this scene entails, how it's affecting people that work and live nearby, and really what is the response from police, again, as they look for a suspect or possibly even multiple suspects associated in investigating this situation. Makia Turner has been on top of the road closures all morning long. Makia, we're starting to see these closures kind of change a little bit, as we heard from Bruce, that things are starting to get a little bit better out there.
A little bit better, starting with this Beltway crash that you were asking some questions about earlier. It was about 15 minutes away from this location, and we know that that crash has been cleared. But I still left the speed times up for you because you can see just how slowly people are moving around that area, especially on the Beltway, as things continue to unfold in Silver Spring. Now, again, that police investigation affecting anyone who needs to get through Bonifant Street, both the eastbound and westbound sides between Ramsey Avenue and Georgia Avenue are one of those road closures that we've been talking about this morning, as well as Fenton Street in the area of where this happened, the northbound and southbound side between Wayne Avenue and Colesville Road, another road closure we've been looking at, as well as Ellsworth Drive and Rotor Road also blocked. So again, just police needing that space to get around, get about and around throughout that area and to find some answers as to, what really happened here. But these are some of the road closures that we've been talking about, as well as that crash again that's been cleared on the outer loop of the Beltway. This was between exit 31 and 34. So yeah, these are the areas that you need to keep an eye out for. Larry?
All right, Makia, thank you so much. And listen, have been looking at the video and seeing the road closures. And when we talk about the scene itself, and the intensity and the magnitude of the scene, when you see these road closures, when you see police leaving in tactical gear from the garage where that officer was reportedly shot, you know you have a serious situation on your hands. Getting a look at this video now, we can see it looks like there's a bit of a shift in the investigation as we start to see some of that crime scene tape removed, easing up some of those closures that Makia Turner was just reporting on. Let's go back out to Evan Kozlov right now. He is at MedStar. Evan, we don't know specifically if that officer that was injured is at that hospital. We have reason to believe that that is the case. What can you tell us from what you're seeing?
Well, yeah, we do have a few updates in the fact that we just walked over and saw a number of officers who are out by the end gate there. Kurt Brooks, a talented photographer, is going to zoom in there and try to give you guys the best glimpse that we can from right here. Probably about 10 or so officers from Montgomery County are here outside of the hospital. And so the indication is growing here that the officer is here, and we're all hoping for this officer. We've also seen a number of vehicles, police cruisers, a few that were marked, some that were not marked, and motorcycles passing through as well. A more than normal, more than usual amount of officers that are here. Our Michael Quander was on the scene and was told that the chief would actually be on the way here. And so obviously if that happens, that will give us all the confirmation, and we could actually ask some questions to the chief about what is happening here. The big questions right now, of course, is who is this officer, first off, and then second of all, what are the injuries? How is the officer doing on his recovery right now? A lot of concern from everybody in this community in Silver Spring and stretching all the way here into DC, but also from the law enforcement community, and that's why we've seen so many officers here this morning. Let's stick with what we know, though. We've been talking about it all morning, that the first call came out around 8:49. The officer called out.
Okay, it looks like we lost Evan
This
Kozlov.
person, and the officer was brought to the hospital. Sorry, go ahead, Larry.
Go ahead, Evan. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So just talking about what we see here, there's a heavy police presence that's here by MedStar, as well as law enforcement. Michael Quander has been doing a lot of work there in Silver Spring, speaking with a lot of the police officers that are there, getting more information. The indication is that the officer is heading here to MedStar, but we are waiting for more confirmation. Right now, there are, though, a number of officers that are here standing by, hoping for the best, just like we all are. So for now, we'll send it back to you. We're going to stay here on the scene, and when the chief comes here, which is the indication, we'll be sure to bring that to you.
All right, Evan Kozlov reporting live for us. Evan, thank you so much. One of the people that we are trying to get in contact with right now would be the county executive for Montgomery County to see if he has any insight on what's been developing for the past several hours. But again, as we've seen from some of the video that we showed earlier, that it looks like the investigation is starting to shift as some of the road closures near this scene, which would be Ellsworth Drive and Fenton Street, are starting to ease up. Police are starting to remove crime scene tape, and we're starting to see a decrease in the number of officers and other personnel that are currently there investigating. We know, as we heard from Evan, that the call came in from this officer at around 8:49 this morning, describing which is disorderly conduct, and that when backup arrived, they found that officer at that garage at Ellsworth Drive and Fenton Street with a gunshot wound. That officer was then transported to the hospital. We believe that that hospital is MedStar based on the information that we've received and the proximity of that hospital to the scene itself. So Evan Kozlov described for us some of the personnel that were outside of that hospital, a number of police officers, which is certainly an indication that this may in fact be the hospital, but we are still waiting for confirmation on that. In the meantime, we want to let you know that we've heard from Pete Paringer with the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, and he describes the condition of this officer as serious and potentially life-threatening. And we know that as a result of this situation that took place earlier this morning, that we have an active and robust manhunt underway in downtown Silver Spring, which is home to a number of businesses, restaurants, schools. 3 schools we've been able to confirm, according to Montgomery County, are on lockdown. And we see police there in this video that continue to survey and investigate and look into the area. Now, police have not instituted or enforced any sort of lockdown, but we do know that police continue to ask people to stay away from the area because of the investigation itself. But even as this winds down, you want to stay away until we've gotten the all clear from police because it only adds to their work and it's only disruptive if you get in their way, and we want you to stay safe. Let's talk about some of those schools that are right now sheltering in place. 3 schools in Montgomery County. This is Silver Spring International Middle School, East Silver Spring Elementary School, and Sligo Creek Elementary School. 3 schools that we can confirm are right now sheltering in place as this investigation continues. We've yet to get an update from the school system about the situation and whether or not they will lift this sheltering in place now that the investigation appears that is starting to change. We don't have any confirmation of that. We're working to get that information. But this has been a serious situation throughout the morning. First, when that officer reported that disorderly conduct, and then when the that officer's backup found him or her lying at that garage with a gunshot wound. And now we know that the injuries associated with that are serious and potentially life-threatening. We've heard from our reporters on the ground, Michael Quander being one of them, who's been talking to the public information officer, county councilman, about this issue in particular. I want to bring in Michael Quander, if we can, to kind of give us an update of the situation. We're going to check in with Michael momentarily. I believe he's out getting some information, but we do have that sound from the public information officer, and I want you to take a listen.
When something like this happens, I mean, dealing with law enforcement, the type of line of work that you all do, when you hear something like this, I mean, it can't be easy for you all to be dealing with this right now.
No, this is one of the hardest things that as a police officer we have to deal with. What we need to recognize is it's not just affecting the police officers, it's affecting the community too. And whenever we have this type of event, everyone's concerned, and I know there's a lot of talk about hopes and prayers and how empty that sounds sometimes, but that's really what we need right now.
Captain, do you know how old the officer is, how long he's been on the force, he or she on the force?
I don't have that information right now. We have not, we're not identifying the officer yet, so I can't provide any of that information at this time.
Captain, I also see that you all wear body cameras. Do you all know if the officer had a body camera rolling at the time?
Unknown at this time, unknown. That's something we'll be looking at as part of the investigation.
And so that was a public information officer for Montgomery County Police there. And Michael asked a great question. He talked specifically and asked about the body camera. And why is that important? Because if that officer's body camera was on at the time of this incident, it will give us a very clear picture to some extent of the situation surrounding the shooting, what led up to it, and what happened thereafter. And as we've told you momentarily a short time ago, that again, this officer is dealing with serious, potentially life-threatening injuries as a result of the shooting. But that piece about the camera is critical because it can tell us so much about what transpired the moments before this officer was shot. And we know that that officer right now fighting for his or her life. It is still busy in downtown Montgomery County and Silver Spring, and we expect that it will be for some time as police try to figure out this investigation. There is a bit of a shift. There is a bit of a shift in the investigation itself. Again, we see a number of roads starting to open up, which is certainly an indication that they may in fact be wrapping up their investigation. We don't know, but we could get an update shortly. Let's check in with Scott Broom right now, who's joining us. Scott, where are you and what can you tell us?
Well, I'm on the south side of this event, Ripley and Dixon, with a parking garage in the background. Appears to be a police command post. This situation is obviously de-escalated somewhat. You're reporting that tape is coming down in some other sections of Silver Spring. It's still up here, and we still have officers standing by in their full tactical gear with AR-15 rifles displayed, etc. But they're clearly in investigation mode right now, and there's also quite a bit of public access around this area as well. People walking by who haven't heard about this either on social media or broadcast media, etc., a little confused about what's going on, asking a lot of questions, completely unaware of the gravity of the situation that occurred in the parking garage behind me here. The focus of this obviously now is on finding a suspect. In addition to the concern about the officers. So much of the police effort right now is clearly involved in documenting this scene, collecting as much evidence as possible. We don't know what that evidence might be. I'm unable to determine from here whether or not this parking garage is covered by security cameras, for instance, on the inside, or whether or not the officers involved, including the officer who was injured, had body camera video. But that is clearly the very intense focus of Montgomery County Police right now, to keep the scene secure, to clearly document everything that's going on in hopes that evidence they find here is going to lead to a suspect or suspects who are obviously dangerous people who are out there right now. Again, the main focus of what I'm witnessing here is just keeping this scene secure so that investigation can continue and keep the public away from the investigation space. But the posture here now is just sort of watchfulness, not a lot of urgency right now. They just have the place on lockdown. That's what I can see on the south side here.
All right, Scott Broom reporting live for us in downtown Silver Spring. Scott, thank you so much. So let's get you updated on what has been a busy 2 hours here as we have been reporting again an officer-involved shooting that took place earlier this morning that an officer called out at around 8:49 for some sort of disorderly conduct. And it was at that time when backup arrived that they found that officer with a gunshot wound. We don't know if it was one gunshot wound or multiple, but we do know that that officer was struck and then taken to the hospital. We believe that that officer was taken to MedStar based on the officers that we see standing outside of that hospital and based on the proximity of that hospital to the scene itself that took place at this parking garage near Ellsworth Drive. But it has been a busy day, an emotional day, not only for the police department that's investigating and currently looking for possible suspects in this situation, but for the people that live nearby. This has been a tough day for them as they've watched what is a quiet, respectful and safe neighborhood turn into the potential scene of a crime. Our coverage is going to continue online on our WSA9 mobile app. We're going to be posting out updates throughout the day, and we will have a live report coming up on the news at noon.